Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers, a special bonus episode. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, on the court, the Lakers seem to have righted the ship Friday in Orlando with a strong second half. And more importantly, off the court, any tension, any problems with Russell Westbrook and Frank Vogel following his benching on Wednesday seem to be set aside. We'll talk about that and more on Locked On Lakers.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturdays, and even Sundays, Andy. We get this thing up for you and provide you with as much content as we possibly can. Make another Locked On podcast your second one. We've been recommending Locked On Rams with Travis Rogers, new host.
Yep, a friend of ours.
Yes, that's right. All right, so on Friday, Andy, the Lakers beat Orlando 116-105 to kick off this season-long road trip that gets them back to 500. The Magic are terrible. They've won twice at home all season long. They're 2-17 at home. That is really bad. I mean, look, we can break down the game itself. LeBron played well. Carmelo Anthony was huge off the bench, 23 points, a monster second half.
In just 17 minutes, 23 points. That's really impressive.
Pretty good. And so, there's stuff to look at there. I think the big thing is they adjusted to the second half after a really kind of wonky, uninspired first half. Came out, sat Dwight Howard, put Stanley Johnson in. The defense got switchier. It got much more aggressive, and they didn't panic. They did in the second half what they should have done in the first and ran away with the game against a terrible team.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting hearing you, Brian, talk about them not panicking, which I guess is overall a good thing. There are times where I wish this team would treat things with a little more panic. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
they need to be actually treating this like, Jesus Christ, we are sub 500 against Orlando, like from the outset. Let's kick the crap out of this game.
Right. No, I don't there's a difference between urgency and panic.
I get that. I'm just saying, whatever the fine line is, I would like them to have their toes as far onto that line as possible without going over like where you need to consult the tape and the referees to know if you've gone over it. I'm not trying to take away from what you said, because ultimately the adjustments they made were good. It's good to keep a level head, especially when you know everything that rides in the balance right now. That being said, anytime it does not feel like total 100% urgency.
No, I that part I agree with. I just, when you play a bad first half, you come back and you play a good second half.
Yes.
The bigger thing though that people are talking about and really is relevant, I think, for them going forward. Yeah, you got to beat Orlando. You don't beat Orlando, this road trip is off to a catastrophic start. With the
Frank Vogel could very well get fired. I mean,
very possibly.
We are on. I don't like this. It's a really unpleasant way to monitor a season, much less monitoring it with a guy like Frank Vogel, who's a genuinely high character, good dude,
a decent human being.
Yeah, but and he's a good coach.
I think so. But
But we are on Vogel watch, and we are going to be on Vogel watch, and every single game is basically going to have like a Vogel meter in terms of like 1 to 10, with that arrow swinging back and forth on the likelihood of getting fired after every single game. And I would say if they lost this game, it's at about a 9.7 rounding down.
It's like the needle on at election time at the New York Times.
Exactly.
You set that stuff aside. All eyes in this game were on Russell Westbrook and how he was going to respond and what was going to become of that. Again, if you missed it, he was benched in the last 4 minutes of the Indiana game on Wednesday, left the arena without speaking to reporters. He was understandably upset. Russ is a prideful guy. People like him do not sit in the fourth quarters of games. Adrian Wojnarowski on Friday clearly, spoke to Westbrook. Really had a story out on ESPN. And Westbrook talked about it. He was upset. He didn't like it. That said, was dedicated to making this team as good as he possibly could, and was ready to move on to it. Frank Vogel reiterated a lot of that before the game on Friday, and Westbrook reiterated it again afterwards. And so all of that stuff I think is really relevant to talk about. And Russ, by the way, played a good game.
He did play very well in this game. I thought it was interesting too in Woj's piece. He talked about that Westbrook was I'm reading right now. Westbrook was unhappy with characterizations that he stormed out of crypto.com arena locker room without meeting with reporters in a post-game news conference. Both Westbrook and team officials said on Thursday that the organization requested that he skip the interview session, which makes sense. We talked about that after the game. Nothing good was going to come from Russ speaking in that moment. It's very similar to the way LeBron, I don't remember after which recent loss it was specifically, but LeBron and it's really rare for LeBron. LeBron skipped out after that game. That was the game before he sent out the I promise we will do better.
Oh, the Denver
tweet.
game.
Game. Because he just basically said, look, nothing good was going to come from me talking off the top of my head at the height of those emotions. And I think the officials, the team officials, PR staff recognize that with Russ. And that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And he said, I don't, I know you were kind of laughing at me a little bit during the cold open, like about the idea that it's like, it's done, it's over. And like everybody's moved on. They've squashed their beef, Andy. I don't mean to say that Russ thinks it was a good idea or was like all on board. It's like, yeah, I spoke to Frank Vogel and I get it. I'm on it, but he didn't escalate the situation. He said what you would expect. I don't like it. I'm not going to, if he does it again, I'm still not going to like it. I'm not going to let that keep me from trying to help this team as much as I can. He also reiterated stuff that I think you've picked up on. I think particularly that, it's an inconsistent role. He's been asked to adjust a lot. Some of that is based on what the Lakers need him to do. And some of that's just based on every day it's a different lineup. That isn't to say that any of this isn't hard or won't remain hard. But at the very least, to me, it feels like what could have been a potentially deeply problematic moment in this season is, for the time being, okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I was kind of smirking about with that was more just the idea that this is going to linger for a while, even if it isn't in the form of tension, because it's going to be something monitored until it feels like it is not worth monitoring at all. And I think everybody is very aware of this. I totally agree with your characterization of Russ handling this, talking about this professionally, and treating this like it's not him versus Vogel. Somebody's got to get. I totally agree with you there. All I mean is just I don't think that it is completely put to bed, even through no fault of either Russ or Vogel. That's all.
Yeah, it was they talked about communication. Vogel and Westbrook, without getting into a lot of detail, clearly talked about what happened. I thought it was interesting too, Andy. The sort of LeBron made a point of, when discussing Russ tonight, talking about his focus, talking about how he was excellent tonight. They called him the head of the snake in their attack and all that stuff. And look, the numbers on Russ were very good: 18 points. 11 rebounds, 7 assists. He had 3 steals. He was a plus 11 for the game. Only had 3 turnovers. So like the sort of low turnover Russ has sustained itself. He only took 1 3-pointer.
Finding the sweet spot for Russ between being low turnover Russ and not being completely in his own head Russ, I think is still a work in progress. I think there's a stylistic change, if nothing else, from his perspective that he's clearly still feeling out in terms of the game. But yeah, he played well, and it was important. I thought it was interesting how Melo said afterwards too. He played at a more controlled pace, and he said that everybody benefited from that. So it's a symbiotic thing.
It is, and a lot of this is defense. And Russ was bad defensively in the first half, and he's the whole team was.
I was going to say, let's make sure it's clear.
The whole team was. And like I had a brief exchange with our friend Crandus McBasketball, Tim, what is it, at Tim _NBA.
I believe so.
Does great work, and you have a great follow.
He's the only
Lakers.
Cranchus McBasketball on Twitter. So if you don't know the
I was trying to do the
exact
actual handle too.
Sure, but I'm just saying, search Twitter that way, and the handle will
You'll
come
find
up.
it. And this was about Carmelo Anthony and his defense. Melo hit a 3 on one end, made a terrible defensive play on the other, and I was like, sort of like, there is a limit as to how good you can expect Melo to be defensively, even when he's trying really hard, because he's 37 years old and limited. I think some of that applies to Russ too. He is just not a great defender. There are certain things he can absolutely be better at and needs to be. There are going to be breakdowns. He is not going to turn into Matisse Thybulle in just because the Lakers would like him to, because he engages. Like, that's not how this works. But he was much better in the second half. The team was much better in the second half. And more importantly, it didn't seem like anything spilled in his game, in the way he played, spilled into from Wednesday to Friday in terms of being over aggressive, under aggressive, pouty, whatever it might be. Also thought, and you managed to catch this. Russ showed up in the arena wearing where the hell do you get that? A denim jacket / pants outfit covered in snowflakes.
Yeah. I took it as Russ having fun with the idea that he was a snowflake after getting benched on Wednesday, didn't talk with the media, that he's too sensitive over this, needs to get over it because he's not playing well enough to earn the right to be sensitive, and Russ having fun with it. It's an interesting question, Brian. Because
nobody asked him about his outfit. So this is us guessing, but it's a good guess.
Yeah, it's me guessing. If you asked Russ about that, I don't think you'd get a straight answer anyway. There's two ways to think about the question that you asked. I don't know where you get that. Russ is a fashionista. This has been well established. He is very, very into his fits, as the kids would say.
Mm-hmm.
It is equally believable to me that Russ had that outfit in one of his 58 closets, like in his house. I imagine the closets in Russ. It's basically like, remember Alicia Silverstone's in Clueless, with the rotating mechanical circular dealie that has all her stuff on hangers. I picture something more high tech like that, but again, 58 of them. I picture Russ just having one of those because he had one of those because he's got one of every outfit. I also picture Russ seeing the reaction to him after Wednesday night, getting on the phone with some designer and saying, I need this thing by 5 o'clock Orlando time sent to me. I will pay whatever it costs.
I'll change the hotel.
Exactly. Yeah, make sure it goes to this hotel. Both are equally believable to me.
And look, our interpretation of Russ's outfit could be wrong, but I don't think it's an accident. It means something that Russ was covered in snowflakes when he got to the arena in Orlando, even if it just means, hey, it's winter in Florida. I don't know, but it seems this is a guy who did wear the photographer's vest that one time too. So I mean, he is not above dressing for purpose. Anyway, Lakers coming back on Sunday, I should say. Much more difficult game against the Miami Heat. If they can win this one, get back above 500, that really does kickstart this road trip in meaningful ways. But before we go, Andy, some things we want to tell you about.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Built Bar. It's the new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. And if yours is about getting fit, eating healthier, Built Bar can be part of that program. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes even better than a candy bar. If you want to eat healthy, but you don't want it to get boring, so by week 3, you're like, screw it, man. Where's my chocolate? Guess what? It's with the Built Bars because they're covered in 100% chocolate. Most Built Bars contain just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but 17 grams of protein. That's the good stuff. A lot of great flavors: coconut almond, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream, and down the line. So go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your first order. Again, promo code LOCKED15, 15% off at Built.com.
Also, Andy, Bet Online would like to wish you a happy betting new year as we continue our march to the playoffs in the NBA and the NHL. Of course, the NFL already there. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the best sports wagering action in 2022. And new year, it's a new updated desktop and mobile website. You can sign up today, receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code Locked On to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll see everybody on Monday.